Hello everyone, it's Nick again, and this time I have a very specific game topic, and it's a game that I've enjoyed a lot recently. If you remember, a couple months ago I talked about a game coming to the Switch called VIII, Lacrimosa of Dana, and how I was excited for it. It is an action JRPG that I have never played before, or better yet, never really had the chance to play, and I was super excited for the chance to play it. The problem is with the Nintendo Switch version of the game. The short end of it is that it's a bad port. It seems rushed and unpolished, and can definitely use an update if you plan to play the game in the docked version. This is a huge issue because some people are frustrated that a large majority of the games that are coming to the Switch are ports of games really, and not new games that could maybe be system sellers. I know that not every game can be God of War or Breath of the Wild, but I have loved the Switch, and it sucks that the description of a port machine can be pretty accurate. This means that the ports better be of the original quality of the game or better. And this is an example where the game's better played on the PS4. The Vita had some performance issues as well. Ys 8 begins with Adol Kristen and Dogi, the usual characters of the Ys series, as they are aboard the ship the Lombardia on the way to find new adventures. When sailing past the Isle of Saren, they get attacked by a mysterious creature and become marooned on an island where there have been many folktales about the island being cursed. When they reunite on the island, they follow a simple premise that you would expect. Make a base, find the other castaways, create a ship, and get off the island. Makes sense. I won't spoil anything else story-wise because it's not necessary. There will be a mini spoiler that barely affects the game, but now you know the main setting of the game and the motivations of the characters. The story isn't bad. I like it quite a bit. The gameplay and the music are both fantastic as well. So what makes it a bad port? It's how the game runs. This is where you can assume laziness or just call it a lack of polish, and the first thing you can see is that there's performance issues with the game. The Nintendo Switch does have upgraded performance when docked, but this is a situation where it doesn't actually help. Both the docked and undocked versions of Switch games can do 60 frames per second if this specific game is programmed to do so, while the docked version can output 1080p versus this handheld that can output at 720p. But Ys 8 runs at 30 frames per second, which can lead for it to be seen kind of choppy at certain parts, and it's really noticeable when you're warping back to the main camp. That can bug gamers because it can really break the immersion that the game has, especially when looking at the scale and scope that the game is showing you. It also isn't an issue for the PS4 version because that one runs at a smooth 60 frames per second with only minor slowdown at those very heavily loading points. This is a minor thing to me, but it's where I started noticing the other issues as well. Localization of the game was a problem too. It happened with the PS4 port, and the issues were patched soonish after though. And what's really odd is that the Switch version is actually a port of the PS version too. Some of the examples of these problems are, you've seen beasts lurking within, steel yourself, and it will surely relieve any, it will surely relieve any. In the earlier versions of the game, you could still even see the Japanese text. Sadly, the typos persist, and it's something that I didn't notice until a while through the game, but it happens more frequently than you would think. The Switch version should have the updated script though. No localization will be perfect, and this game definitely had a rough localization from the research that I did, but I don't notice these issues in other ports as much. Once you notice it first, it's bound to be seen a couple more times. As the title of the video says though, it's not a bad game. I think it's a fantastic game. The first thing I have to say about it is, I love island settings in games. You've heard how Mike likes ancient Egypt as settings for games, and now you're about to learn that I love settings of beaches and islands. Just thinking about the sense of adventure on a deserted island which hasn't been explored yet, I love every bit of it. That's not the only thing I like about this game too. One of the things that I like about Fire Emblem is this as well. You start with a small group of people that gradually expands as more people join your group while still learning unique things about all of them. You find out their profession, their personalities, and their unique quirks that make them memorable. In Ys 8, every castaway pulls their own weight in their own way. As your settlement grows, the variety that the game has to offer grows with it. The music is a strength of the game too. The same reason that Wind Waker has a great soundtrack to me is the same reason that Ys 8 does. Both soundtracks capture the sense of adventure that I believe lies deep within every single person on this planet. Sunshine Coastline is the first one that did this for me. You get shipwrecked, and morale is pretty low. Luckily, Adol is a positive person who is able to change this situation into an opportunity to do what he always does, to go on an adventure. While this might be more fast-paced than the similar music the Legend of Zelda series has, it still does a great job of invoking the feeling of wanting to run around and explore this new area. Other tracks that were able to do this to me was Eclusian Dance, Next Step to the Unknown, and Sibylline Road, and those are just a few examples. You still have the emotional tracks and the intense boss fight songs, but the feeling of exploring just feels so damn good in this game. I had the most fun completing the map and finding every hidden area in Ys VIII, and the music helped so much in that endeavor. Now I'll talk about the gameplay. It's awesome. Oh, you wanted more? My bad. Ys VIII is an action RPG that doesn't feel like other RPGs that I've played. Most of it involves fighting and exploring, as you'd expect from an RPG, to gain experience, level up, strengthen your weapons, build support, etc. However, Ys VIII doesn't seem overwhelming in terms of content that I would consider games like Xenoblade 2 and Skyrim, and to me, that's a good thing. This might be due to the fact that it was a Vita exclusive for a while, but Ys VIII is a lot more manageable and feels like the side quests you do actually matter to your main goal. Some might look at it like a lack of options, but I would strongly argue that. In most large RPGs, they make the game so you don't want to stop playing, and you really never do if you keep doing all the quests, and that's not bad necessarily. I like those games a lot, but I don't do most of the missions that they offer. If you play the games in this genre, you'll probably know what I mean. You accept a ton of missions, and they just sit in your quest log waiting to be completed for a really long time. Ys VIII, on the other hand, gives you an approximate duration, kind of like a timer, for the missions to be completed. It doesn't seem like much, but it helps out the pacing so damn much. Here's that mini spoiler I was talking about. An artist you find wants to be more productive, and he found an instrument that's washed ashore. He doesn't have the necessary skills to help with the other island projects, so he wants to motivate others through his music. A short quest you can choose to take is to find some sheet music for him to practice. If you don't complete the quest after a while, no problem, as it goes away from the list. Here's another secret. I never found his sheet music. It didn't matter though, because it didn't bother me with waiting to be completed on the bulletin board. This small detail blew me away, which I never expected to. More content doesn't necessarily mean that the game is better, especially when some cutscenes are just atrociously bad, like the Perun cutscene in Xenoblade 2. Don't even get me started on that one. I would say that the amount of side content that Ys VIII offers is just about perfect. Combat is what I wanted to mention last. Most of the enemies have a weakness to a specific type of weapon. Once you land enough hits with the right weapon type, you quote-unquote break them, and essentially they lose all their defense. Then you can start wailing on them without almost any fear of them putting up a fight. Bosses aren't this easy though. To take down the harder bosses, it is crucial to learn their attack patterns and timing it to counter with a flash move or a flash guard. It feels really good once you're able to get that counter perfectly timed and start unleashing tons of damage on the boss standing right in front of you. You also have a couple gauges that you want to monitor when you face these enemies, but I won't go into too much detail about those. It's more fun to try them out for yourself and to try out all the skills that the game has. If you notice, all the positives are from the game itself, which doesn't really change much across game platforms. The content that these games have is basically the same, but the way it runs is vastly different. I think that this is mainly an issue with the Switch, due to the fact that the output changes whether it's docked or undocked. I did play this game in both modes, and I did notice that it was better while playing as a handheld, which is kind of odd to think about, really. After brainstorming with some of the other members of the channel, we talked about how some other Switch ports have issues as well. WWE has already been known to be bad, and Tropical Freeze has actually more of an issue with the fact that it has a $60 price tag when the original release for the Wii U was less than that. With all these games being ported to Switch, this is an important discussion to have. I don't expect ports to be perfect versions of the original, but they can't be hastily made versions either. It should be of the original quality of the game or better. There doesn't need to be any side quest additions, graphical improvements, or DLC to me, but it should be comparable to the original game and other ports. I stand by what I said before. It's a bad port. I really like the game, but the Switch version is just not the best way to play it. If you are going to play it, and have the system, pick it up on the PS4 because it's just the better way to play Ys VIII Lacrimosa of Dana. If you want to play this game but don't have one of these consoles, the Switch version is a version where you can definitely enjoy it a lot, like I did. Like always, let me know what you think in the comment sections below. If you have played any games in the Ys series, let me know which one I should try next because I'm trying to figure that out right now. Either way, this is Nick, signing off.